I've never been kissed, she whispered to the most dangerous mob boss in Chicago at midnight. And his response. He started a literal gang war for her. Emma walked in to deliver a $12 invoice, but walked out as the sole obsession of a killer. He gave her 24 hours to fake her own death, or he'd burn the city down to protect her. Stick around to see how a broke girl making cannoli became the untouchable queen of the criminal underworld in just 4 days. Guys, picture this absolute madness. I've never been kissed. Emma blurted that out before her brain could even hit the brakes. Those words completely paralyzed Dante Moretti, the undisputed king of the Chicago underworld. He has her pinned against his desk, blood literally on his collar, and he freezes like she pulled a weapon on him. His hand stops dead on her jaw. His eyes go pitch black. Emma is panicking, thinking she just signed her own death warrant. But then, he brushes her cheek with his thumb and drops a devastating smile. "Let's take it slow," he whispers. "Bro, nothing about Dante is slow. Here is a quick piece of life advice. Sometimes the most embarrassing truths we accidentally spill are the exact things that change our entire destiny." Emma is about to learn that the hard way. Before we see what this absolute menace does next, you and I need to lock in. Hit that subscribe button and drop your city in the comments because this story is pure fire. Let's rewind a bit. Our girl Emma had exactly $12 to her name when she strolled into the Mafia high-rise at 11:47 p.m. on a random Tuesday. She knew it was an unhinged move. She should have dumped the invoice at the front desk and bounced. But the lobby was a ghost town, and her toxic boss had been breathing down her neck. Emma was running on fumes after a brutal 16-hour double shift. Honestly, the real takeaway here is simple. Never let a terrible boss push you into compromising your safety. Exhaustion makes us do reckless things, and Emma was running purely on desperate autopilot. So her exhausted brain decides to ride the elevator straight to the penthouse. Total red flag, right? The hallway was dead silent, that heavy, terrifying quiet that makes your instincts scream to run. But Emma ignored it. She spent her life fighting fear, terrified of ending up broke like her mom. She knocks on the heavy private door. Nothing. She knocks harder, and it drifts open. "Hello?" she calls out, sounding tiny in this massive. The room is sleek, with windows showing the Chicago skyline looking like shattered glass. Listen, the biggest truth you can learn here is simple. When your gut screams that a situation is dangerous, turn around. Past trauma should never overwrite your basic survival skills. The office is all dark wood and leather, totally dripping with lethal wealth. And right there, sitting in the shadows behind his desk, is Dante Moretti. Emma's lungs straight up stopped working. She had catered a charity gig last week and spotted him from afar. But seeing this absolute unit up close is a totally different ballgame. He is in his mid-30s, with dark hair and facial features sharp enough to cut glass. But his eyes? Bro. Those dark eyes locked onto her, like she was the exact prey he had been waiting all night to trap. "I'm sorry," she barely chokes out. "You know, there is a serious lesson we can all learn from this. Looks can be incredibly deceiving. Just because someone is ridiculously attractive doesn't mean they aren't the most dangerous person in the room. Always stay on your toes." "The door was open. I have an invoice. I should go," she stammers. But Dante drops 2 icy words. "Come here." Not an invitation, guys, an absolute command. Her legs walk her right up to his desk. She holds out the envelope, hand shaking, but he doesn't flinch. He stares her down, interrogating her, rolling the name Emma off his tongue like fine wine. He demands to know why a 26-year-old is delivering bills at midnight. She stutters about her boss, but he cuts her off with a wild plot twist. "You made the cannoli." She's baffled. He leans back, and that is exactly when Emma finally notices the blood. What is the real-life lesson here? True excellence leaves a mark. Even in the most dangerous moments, your hard work will get you noticed by the craziest people. There it was, fresh blood. Just a few sinister spots staining his crisp white collar. Dante totally ignores it, smoothly claiming her cannolis were the best he ever tasted. Her mouth goes bone dry. He orders her to sit. She tries to back out, but his voice drops an octave. "Sit down." Boom. Her knees literally buckle on command, dropping her into the chair. Every alarm bell in her head is screaming. The isolated building, the blood, the terrifying way he is studying her like an obsession. Then he hits her with the ultimate question. "Are you afraid of me?" Her first instinct is to lie. But here is an important truth to remember, folks. When you are dealing with someone incredibly dangerous, dishonesty is your worst enemy. Those dark eyes would instantly sniff out a fake answer. "Yes," she admits. Dante smirks and "Bro, It is that chilling kind of smile that proves why he rules the city. Good. You're smarter than you look. He promises he won't hurt her, which sounds completely unhinged from a guy with a bloody shirt. He casually whips out a checkbook, scribbles numbers, and slides it across the desk. Emma looks at the check and almost passes out. It is 3 times the invoice amount. This is too much, she gasps. He tells her it is just a massive tip for the dessert. Then the boss stands up, towering over 6 feet, built like an absolute weapon. The ultimate takeaway here: always know your worth, but understand when a gift comes with invisible strings attached. Accepting that cash means she is officially on his radar, and there is absolutely no going back. Guys, picture this. It is midnight, and Emma is standing right in the lion's den. Dante looks at her, reading her mind, and says she either has crazy guts or is just plain stupid for walking in there. She whispers that she is terrified, her heart absolutely hammering against her ribs. He stalks around that massive desk and looms over her. It should be pure nightmare fuel, right? But here is the wild twist. Instead of just fear, she feels this electric spark. And then, out of nowhere, the ultimate boss drops a bomb. Have dinner with me, he says. Her brain totally short-circuits. He tells her he is sending a car tomorrow night. Honestly, it goes to show that sometimes stepping right into the thing that scares you the most is the only way to completely change your life. Emma panics, saying she does not even know him, but Dante just stares right through her. He points out she knows exactly what he does, yet she is not running. She tries to call him Mr. Moretti, but he cuts her off. Say it, he demands. When she finally whispers his first name, his eyes go dark and his jaw locks. Good girl, he says, sending a shiver down her spine. He slides a card into her hand and tells her he will see her at 8. It is a smooth threat wrapped in velvet. She stammers that she has to work, but this guy does not blink. He says he will buy out her entire shift or her whole week if he has to. Never let anyone tell you your time is not valuable, especially when a dangerous guy is willing to buy every second of it. The guy tilts his head, studying her like a predator looking at his prize. He tells her point blank she is going to say yes, and the only question is if she will make him wait. Every alarm bell in Emma's head screams at her to run away from this dangerous underworld. But what does she do? She actually says, okay, absolute madness. Dante flashes a dark smile, telling her to go home, lock her doors, and keep her mouth shut. Emma sprints out of that building. Back in her tiny apartment, sleep is completely off the table. She just stares at the ceiling, looping the crazy conversation in her mind. It really shows that sometimes your gut pulls you toward the fire, even when your brain says run. She just cannot stop thinking about his intense, burning stare. Stick with me here because this gets wild. She is obsessing over the literal blood on his collar that he casually ignored. Then, at 2:47 in the morning, her phone buzzes. An unknown number asks if her doors are locked. Boom! He already has her phone number. Of course this boss knows where she lives and works. She should be calling the cops. But what does our girl do? She texts back a simple yes. Immediately he replies with, good girl, now go to sleep. Her hands are shaking out of control. She is lying there, grinning like crazy, just because the most dangerous man in the city praised her twice in one night. Validation is a powerful thing, but getting it from a walking red flag is a whole different level of crazy. Her mind and body are just completely scrambled. She crashes right before sunrise, dreaming about his dangerous smile. The next day is an absolute blur. She drags herself through her catering job on autopilot. Her boss Rita takes one look at her and asks if she has seen a ghost. Emma lies and says she is just tired. Rita clearly does not buy it, but decides to drop it. I mean, what is Emma supposed to say? Hey Rita, I casually met a ruthless mob boss at midnight, and now I am his personal dinner date. Just your average Tuesday, right? It proves that keeping a massive secret will always show on your face, no matter how hard you try to hide it. Then, right at 6 in the evening, her phone goes off again. The chaotic countdown has officially started. The text says the car is arriving at 7:30, and she needs to wear something nice. Emma looks down at her nasty, grease-stained uniform and practically wants to cry. Her closet is literally just thrift store rejects. None of her clothes would last 5 seconds in a billionaire's world, but get a load of this power move. At 7:15, there is a knock. Emma opens her door to find this super elegant, serious woman, holding 3 high-end garment bags and a massive makeup case. She flat out says Mr. Moretti sent her to get Emma ready. Emma is standing there completely stunned. The woman tells her the luxury dresses are all hers to keep. It is a crazy reminder that in life, immense wealth really does solve problems before you even have a chance to stress over them. This stylist, Sophia, brushes right past Emma and tosses the bags on the bed, like this happens every day. She declares they have exactly 45 minutes to work. What follows is pure chaos in the best way possible. Sophia turns Emma's tiny bathroom into a luxury salon. She fixes her hair, applies perfect makeup, and zips her into a dress that easily cost way more than Emma's entire car. When Emma finally stares into the mirror, her jaw drops. She does not even recognize the girl looking back. She is wearing this stunning emerald green dress that hugs every curve, making her feel completely exposed but ridiculously powerful at the same time. Sometimes stepping into a brand new version of yourself is all it takes to finally unlock your hidden confidence. Picture this, guys. Emma is looking absolutely stunning, lips fuller, completely transformed into someone who could actually survive the dark, twisted mafia world she is stepping into. Sophia just whispers that she is beautiful, packs up and dips. Right at 7:30, boom, the text hits. The car is waiting. She pulls up to Lucia's, and let me tell you, this is one of those absurdly rich spots where menus do not even have prices. The hostess immediately hits her with that snobby, judgmental side eye. But then, the absolute Don himself, Dante, rolls up. He is rocking a tailored black suit, no tie, top button popped, looking incredibly dangerous. The lesson here, guys, is that people will always judge your cover. But it is the energy you bring that shuts them down. Listen, Dante is walking around looking like absolute sin and salvation, wrapped in pure Italian wool. Every single woman in that restaurant is breaking their neck to look at him. But this mob boss has absolute tunnel vision for Emma. He grabs her hand, rubs his thumb over her knuckles, and sparks literally fly. He drops that Mafia riz, saying he knew she would pick the green dress out of the 3 he sent. The guy is insanely confident, bragging that he is never wrong. He walks her straight to the super secret VIP room in the back, candles flickering, expensive wine already poured, the whole 9 yards. It is almost suffocating how intense it is. A quick life lesson for you all. When a guy gives you options but already knows your choice, he is paying real attention. Emma is practically hyperventilating as Dante pulls out her chair. He tells her to relax and jokes that he does not bite, but Emma completely fumbles and blurts out that the streets say otherwise. She instantly wants the floor to swallow her whole. But Dante just drops this dark, gritty laugh that completely wrecks her nerves. He straight up admits he has done horrific nightmare fuel things, but says he would do them all over again to protect his people. That is absolute mafia loyalty right there. When she asks why she is even sitting across from him, he drops the ultimate line. She looked at him like a normal human, not some terrifying mob king. The life lesson here is simple, folks. Sometimes the biggest flex is just treating someone like a regular human being. He tells her it is ridiculously rare to be treated like just a man. Then he asks for her story, and he is not taking no for an answer. So Emma spills her guts. She talks about her grandma making canolas, working 2 completely exhausting jobs just to barely survive, and sending her hard-earned cash to an ungrateful mom who never even drops a thank you text. She talks about the crushing debt and the endless grind. And you know the crazy part? This terrifying mob boss is locked in. He is genuinely listening to her, keeping intense eye contact, making her feel like they are the only 2 people on the planet. Honest life lesson for you guys. Real respect isn't about throwing money around, it is giving someone your absolute, undivided attention when they speak. When she finishes her tragic backstory, Dante drops a massive truth bomb, telling her she has no idea how strong she actually is. Emma laughs it off, saying she is barely surviving, but Dante completely shuts that down. He tells her that just waking up and fighting every single day is pure strength. He points out that all the mafia kids in his circle were handed everything, but she has fought for every inch. That makes her way more dangerous than them. But before she can even process that compliment, his phone starts blowing up. Boom, boom, boom. The romantic vibe completely shatters. His face goes freezing cold, his boss persona snaps back on, and he tells her to stay put. The lesson today? True strength is not built in a mansion. It is forged in the absolute struggle of daily life. Stick with me here, guys, because things go from 0 to 100 right now. Dante storms over to the corner, rapid-firing angry Italian into his phone. Emma catches a few thanks to her grandma, but those words are blood, death, and betrayal. Massive red flags everywhere. When he hangs up, the sweet guy who was just listening to her is gone. Now the ruthless Underworld kingpin is fully back. He grabs his jacket and orders his right-hand man Marco to take her home. He gives her this terrifying warning to lock her doors and absolutely not open them for anyone. He rushes over, grabs her face with both hands, looking deadly serious. Life lesson time, folks. When someone tells you to lock your doors, do not ask questions. Just do exactly what they say. He demands that she promises to stay safe, drops a burning kiss on her forehead, and vanishes into the night, leaving her sitting alone in that fancy VIP room. Emma is an absolute wreck. She goes home, flops onto her bed still wearing that expensive green dress, and just stares at her screen. Finally, at 3:17 in the morning, the text comes through. He asks if her doors are locked. She says yes, and he actually apologizes for ditching her. When she asks if everything is okay, he drops a cold, hard no, but promises he will handle it. Emma knows she should definitely mind her own business, but she types out the riskiest question anyway, asking if he is safe. The wait for his reply is pure agony. The lesson? Anxiety over someone you care about is the ultimate sleep killer. Finally, his text comes through, telling her not to worry because he is simply not worth the trouble. Emma immediately claps back, refusing to accept that toxic mindset. He tries to push her away, saying she does not know him, but she fires right back and tells him to let her in. He just texts back, "Go to sleep, sweetheart, we will talk tomorrow." But tomorrow brings absolute chaos. At exactly 7 in the morning, someone is banging on her door. Emma stumbles over, looks through the peephole, and sees this fiercely elegant woman with eyes that could freeze a volcano. The woman demands she open up so they can talk about her brother. Emma is completely terrified but opens the door a crack. Here is your lesson. Ignoring red flags usually leads to crazy people at your door at 7 a.m. Emma manages to croak out and ask who the heck is at her door. The woman flashes a smile that could actually cut glass and introduces herself as Gabriella Moretti, Dante's sister. She claims they have a massive problem. Emma tries to play dumb, but Gabriella completely owns her, listing off all the insane things Dante did. Buying her expensive dresses, taking her to Lucia's, shifting his entire criminal empire schedule just to hang out with her. Gabriella says that makes Emma either incredibly special or incredibly dangerous, and she needs to know which one. She drops the ultimate bombshell. Dante hasn't cared about a single soul for 15 years, but now he is obsessively checking his phone for her texts. The lesson: when a guy completely shifts his schedule for you, he is severely hooked. Let us unpack this together, folks. Emma is stammering, completely lost for words, swearing she did not try to do anything to him. Gabriella could not care less about intentions. She only cares about results. She threatens to break the door down if Emma does not let her inside. Emma is shaking uncontrollably as she unhooks the chain. The sister sweeps into the tiny, run-down studio apartment like an absolute hurricane, judging the place in one brutal glance. She demands to know how long Emma has known the Mafia boss. When Emma says 3 days, Gabriella almost loses her mind. 3 days to melt a frozen heart that took over a decade to build? It is totally unheard of. The simple life lesson here is that sometimes the most insane connections happen in literally a blink of an eye. Gabriella straight up threatens to wipe Emma off the map if she is playing games with Dante. Not a quick ending, but a permanent, brutal one. Emma somehow finds a backbone in the middle of this absolute terror, swearing she is not playing games and has zero clue what is going on. Gabriella lays out the bitter truth. Her brother is falling hard for a girl who has no idea how toxic the Mafia underworld actually is. She warns Emma that Dante is literally designed to destroy everything he touches. Pointing out Emma's thrift store couch and clearance rack lifestyle, Gabriella brutally states that Emma is not built to survive a man like him. Just as the tension maxes out, Emma's phone buzzes. The lesson, folks: never dive into the deep end unless you know exactly what is swimming down there. Both of these stressed-out women stare at the phone on the counter. The name Dante flashes on the screen like a warning siren. Gabriella orders her to put it straight on speaker. Emma is basically trembling as she picks up. Before she can even form a sentence, Dante's voice cuts through, absolutely vibrating with pure rage. He knows his sister is there. Gabriella snatches the phone to argue, claiming she is trying to protect Emma from his dark world. Dante unleashes a roar so terrifying that Emma flinches backward, screaming at his sister to get out before he drives over and drags her out himself. Gabriella shoves the phone back, hisses a threat, and slams the door so hard the walls shake. Life lesson? Never get stuck in the middle of explosive family drama, especially with Mafia families. The second the door clicks shut, Dante's voice flips, turning super gentle as he asks if she is okay. Emma collapses onto her cheap couch, utterly drained, and finally asks the million-dollar question. What exactly are they doing? The silence is heavy until he confesses he has no idea, but he physically cannot stay away. He knows he should, but he is completely hooked. Emma mentions that his sister thinks he will destroy her. Dante gives this raw, painful confession, admitting Gabriella is right. Everyone he touches ends up ruined or dead. and he tells Emma she deserves a vastly better life than the nightmare he brings. Emma swallows hard and replies, "What if I do not want better?" The lesson here, guys? When someone literally warns you, they are bad news, you should probably listen. Think about this with me, guys. Even when he calls her an idiot, his voice is incredibly soft. He admits he is the biggest fool, because he absolutely refuses to let her go. He tells her he is placing armed guards outside her building and shuts down any argument. He just wants to keep her safe, and then the line drops dead. Emma sits there in a wrinkled dress, completely dazed. Just 48 hours ago, she was a broke caterer with $12 to her name. Now, she is protected by mob muscle. Caught in the magnetic orbit of a literal kingpin, she knows she should run for the hills. But 10 minutes later, a text pops up asking to make up for the sister drama with dinner tonight. Final lesson, folks. Sometimes stepping into the unknown is simply too thrilling to walk away from. Let me set the scene, guys. Emma finally stops playing it totally safe and texts the dangerous Mafia boss himself to pick her up. Sometimes the biggest risk you can take in life is just stepping out of your own comfort zone. Dante rolls up at exactly 7 o'clock, dropping the fancy suit routine. Bro is rocking dark jeans and a black tee that hugs his shoulders in a way that should be illegal, with a leather jacket slung over his arm. He looks younger, way more unhinged, and totally off the leash. His hair is still damp from the shower, and he smells like expensive cologne and bad decisions. She is stunned as he just looks at her and asks if she is ready. Emma grabs the same cheap purse she has been hauling around for 3 years and follows him. You would think she might be terrified, right? But the lesson here is that courage is usually just curiosity speaking louder than fear. Instead of his usual ride, they walk up to a sleek black Audi that looks ready to break the sound barrier. Dante opens the door like a total gentleman, then gets behind the wheel. He does not start the engine right away. He just sits there gripping the steering wheel like it owes him money. Finally, he tells her that his sister was out of line earlier, but she was only trying to protect Emma. Emma asks from who, and Dante gives her this incredibly heavy look. Dante looks her dead in the eye and says she is the least dangerous person he has ever met. But when Emma asks why everyone acts like she is a massive threat, he drops a total bombshell. He admits she actually is a threat, just not the way they think. Guys, sometimes the people who change our lives the most are the ones who just offer us peace. He grabs her hand, weaving his fingers through hers, and confesses that she makes him crave things he gave up on ages ago. Normal, safe things that absolutely do not exist in his brutal world. Emma is practically hyperventilating as he talks about just sitting in a car, talking to a girl, and dreaming of a future without violence. He starts the engine, and when Emma asks what he actually is, he straight up calls himself a monster with good taste in pastries. Talk about self-awareness. It is a solid reminder that owning your flaws is the first step to growth, even if those flaws include running a crime syndicate. Emma wants to argue, but the tension in his shoulders tells her to back off. They drive in silence for 20 minutes, leaving the shiny city lights for some sketchy, abandoned industrial district. We are talking total horror movie vibes with empty lots and dark alleys. Her stomach does a massive flip, but Dante tells her to trust him. He promises she is completely safe as he parks behind a busted building. Emma is looking around this empty alley, wondering if this is the end of the line. But life has a funny way of hiding the most beautiful things behind the ugliest doors. Dante leads her to a hidden entrance and does a secret 3-knock pattern. The door swings open and suddenly they are hit with live jazz music. The outside was a total fake-out. Inside the place is a gorgeous 1920s-style speakeasy. We are talking dark velvet booths, moody lighting, couples dancing, and a stunning bar that looks like a movie set. It is super intimate, crazy elegant, and absolutely 100% illegal. Emma is practically speechless as she asks what this place even is. Dante tells her it is a place where nobody asks questions. He slides into a back booth right next to her instead of across the table, totally closing the distance. He casually drops that he actually owns the joint and uses it for mob meetings. But on Thursdays, it is just a chill club. A super sweet older waitress comes over, treating the Mafia boss like he is her favorite nephew. It just goes to show that how you treat your staff says everything about your character. He orders his usual and whatever Emma wants, which ends up being wine because her brain is totally fried. She looks at his sharp profile in the dim light and asks just how many underground spots he really owns. He drapes his arm around the booth, his fingers brushing her shoulder, and asks if she really wants to know about his operations. Emma nods, and you can see Dante shift into boss mode. He lists off his legal fronts, restaurants, construction, and shipping lines that employ tons of normal people. But you have to remember, the foundation of any empire always has cracks. He admits there is a whole other side: gambling, protection rackets, and heavy loans. He says he has to do the dirty work to keep his family safe and the businesses running. His father built the entire syndicate on fear and blood, and when he passed away, Dante inherited the whole terrifying package. Dante explains that at 22 years old, he suddenly had 300 people depending on him for their actual survival. So yes, he does bad things, but he keeps his crew alive. Responsibility is a heavy crown, and sometimes doing the wrong thing feels like the only way to protect the people you love. Emma asks if he regrets it, and his voice breaks as he admits he regrets it every single day. He tells her she needs to run far away from him if she has any survival instincts, but Emma just stares him down, her heart pounding out of her chest, and flat out refuses to run. Dante looks at her with this mix of utter desperation and pure hunger that is totally devastating. He leans in dangerously close, cupping her jaw and brushing his thumb over her lip. He whispers that she has no clue what she is doing to him, that he cannot even think straight when she is near. He drops his forehead against hers and admits he has ended men for making him feel a fraction of this weakness. Vulnerability is terrifying, but it is also the only way to build real trust. He tells her he wants to kiss her so badly it is destroying him. But he knows if he starts, he will not be able to stop. He says she deserves something slow, but Emma is done waiting. She closes the gap, kissing him and pouring all her messy, confused feelings into that one single moment. For half a second, Dante just freezes, totally shell-shocked. Then he lets out this low groan, completely taking over the kiss. He slides one hand into her hair and grips her waist, pulling her flush against him. He kisses her like a man who has been drowning his whole life, and she is his first breath of oxygen. It is desperate, messy, and absolutely mind-blowing. Emma is clinging to his shirt like her life depends on it. Sometimes letting go of your control is exactly what you need to finally feel alive. When they finally pull apart, panting for air, Dante's eyes are pitch black with desire. But then he ruins the moment, stepping back and roughly declaring the kiss was a mistake. Emma is stunned, but Dante explains it is a mistake because now he knows what she tastes like, and he will never stop craving more. He literally backs away from her, putting miles of emotional distance between them. He tells her he needs to do the one decent thing he has done all night, and take her home before things escalate. Boundaries are tough to set, especially when your heart screams the exact opposite, but they are absolutely necessary. Emma wants us to scream and demand answers about why he keeps pulling her in, just to shove her away. But he looks so shattered, she just swallows her pride and agrees. The drive back to her place is so heavy you could cut the tension with a knife. They pull up to her apartment, and Dante just sits there, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles are white. He finally admits he cannot see her for a few days because he has some incredibly dangerous syndicate business to handle. It is a harsh reminder that you cannot outrun your past, especially when your past is the Mafia. He promises to have Marco watching her building. Let me set the scene for you right now. Emma sprints back into her apartment building, her heart practically beating out of her chest. She locks the door, slides down the wood, and tries to breathe. She tells herself she only has to survive 3 days. Just 3 days of hiding from the mob. Easy, right? Wrong. She barely makes it 18 hours before absolute chaos erupts. She is at work the next afternoon, literally elbows deep in pasta dough, when her coworker Rita bursts in looking like she just saw a ghost. Rita tells her a guy named Marco is out front, and guess what? He is packing heat. Emma wipes her hands, walks out, and boom, there is Marco looking exactly like a high-paid Mafia hitman in a custom-tailored suit. Simple life lesson here, folks. You can never outrun the mob. Look at this absolute madness, guys. So all the regular workers are literally dodging Marco like he has the plague. Emma clocks this immediately and asks what the deal is. Marco is dead serious. He drops the bomb that someone put a tail on her this morning. And it is definitely not their guys. Emma is absolutely freezing up. Marco straight up tells her she is getting packed off to a safe house right now until the boss, Dante, handles the mess. Emma tries to say she has to work, but Marco shuts that down fast. He tells her the stalkers just want to use her as bait for Dante. Life lesson here? If the Mafia tells you to skip work, you skip work. Simple as that. So they basically want to catch Dante by snatching Emma. Her hands are literally shaking at this point. Rita, her coworker, is terrified but tells Emma to just go and save herself. Marco does not even give Emma a second to argue. He physically hustles her out the back door and shoves her into a waiting black SUV. Inside is Tony, A younger guy rocking a massive jaw scar. Marco slides in and tells her to buckle up because Tony is about to lose the tail. And guys, the next 20 minutes are straight out of a high-speed movie chase. Sharp turns, crazy lane changes, absolute chaos on the streets. Life lesson? Always wear your seatbelt when a guy with a face scar is driving the getaway car. Emma is gripping that door handle for dear life while the city turns into a total blur. They pull up to this insanely expensive high-rise in a totally elite neighborhood. We are talking penthouses that cost more than Emma would make in 10 lifetimes. Marco swipes a key card and takes her to the absolute top floor. The place is gorgeous. Floor-to-ceiling windows, luxury kitchen, the works. But Emma is straight up hyperventilating and missing the view. Marco tells her the building has heavy security, and nobody gets up without clearance. He says Dante will be there soon. When Emma asks how long, Marco is super grim and says Dante is out there dealing with the situation. Life lesson? Fancy real estate means absolutely nothing if you are having a literal panic attack inside it. And we all know dealing with it means Dante is out hunting down the absolute fools who stalked her. Emma just collapses onto the couch, completely shaking. Marco hands her a burner phone and tells her it has exactly one number programmed into it. He strictly forbids her from using her normal phone or calling anyone else. He leaves, and Emma is just sitting alone in this multi-million-dollar penthouse, guarded by invisible security, waiting on a mob boss who is probably doing something violently illegal to keep her safe. She stares at that cheap burner phone, finally hits the only button, and Dante picks up on the absolute first ring. Let this be a life lesson, folks. True loyalty means answering the phone on the first ring, especially when the Mafia is involved. So Dante says her name, and Emma just spills it. She says she is terrified and has zero clue what is happening. Dante actually sounds completely gutted. He apologizes and says he never wanted this for her, while literal screaming is happening in his background. He tells her to stay away from the windows and that he is handling it. When Emma asks who is following her, the silence is so heavy you could cut it with a knife. He finally admits someone is trying to use her to destroy him. Emma realizes her sister was totally right about this whole mess, but Dante gets fiercely protective and swears he will do whatever it takes to keep her safe. The life lesson? When you date a walking red flag, do not act shocked when the drama finally comes knocking at your door. Dante stops mid-sentence, just telling her to stay safe before he hangs up. Emma is left clutching the burner phone, totally dreading what his version of whatever it takes actually looks like. She knows this guy has a dark, violent side right under the surface. She is seriously questioning if kissing him was the most massive mistake of her entire life. Hours are literally crawling by. Emma is pacing this luxury cage like a trapped animal, way too wired to even think about eating. The sun sets, painting the whole sky in these crazy fiery colors. Even though Marco warned her, she stands at the window watching the city lights. She feels entirely alone. A quick life lesson for you guys. Never ignore a bodyguard's warning about standing near open windows during a literal mob war. Okay, stick with me, guys, because this is where it gets crazy. Exactly 3 days after she first met him, the elevator finally dings. Emma completely panics. She grabs a massive crystal vase and holds it like a baseball bat, ready to swing. The doors slide open, and it is Dante. She almost drops from relief. But then she gets a good look at his face. His jaw is locked, his knuckles are split open and dripping blood, and he looks furious. Her fear spikes right back up. She asks if he is hurt, but he ignores the question. Strides across the room, takes her weapon away, and pulls her into a massive hug. Life lesson here? Always keep a heavy vase handy. You never know when you might need to defend your own turf. Emma just grips his shirt, totally terrified. She can literally feel his heart pounding out of his chest, and she smells gunpowder, blood, and straight-up danger all over him. She begs to know what happened out there. Dante pulls back, holds her face, and just coldly states that he handled it and she is safe now. Emma knows that is totally dodging the question. He tells her the brutal truth. The people in his underworld do not play fair, and there is no line they will not cross. Now that his enemies know she exists, he absolutely cannot let her go back to her normal apartment or her normal routine, not until the threat is totally wiped off the map. Life lesson to remember, folks. The Underworld does not have a human resources department to complain to. They play for keeps every single time. Emma feels her whole stomach hit the floor. Dante looks her dead in the eyes and says she has to stay there with him. He admits it is totally unfair and a massive ask, but it is literally the only way to keep her alive. When she asks how long, it clearly kills him to admit it might be days or even weeks. He rests his forehead against hers and promises to protect her no matter the cost. Emma's brain is totally short-circuiting. She is trapped in a luxury box with a dangerous mobster. Any sane person would demand to go home immediately, but instead she just whispers okay. Dante closes his eyes, looking incredibly relieved. The life lesson is pretty harsh today. Sometimes the safest place you can possibly be is right inside the actual belly of the beast. Dante whispers okay back to her. Then he gives her this incredibly soft, desperate kiss before pulling away. He tells her he needs to shower the blood off, and then they will have a real talk. He ducks into the bedroom, and Emma finally collapses onto the couch. This is her actual reality now, hidden away, guarded by a man who is equally terrifying and magnetic, waiting for an invisible threat to end. She absolutely should be running for the hills, but deep down, she feels this crazy certainty that she is exactly where she needs to be. She is falling for the mob boss, guys, even if he brings her whole world crashing down. 20 minutes later, Dante walks out wearing only sweatpants. Listen up for the life lesson. If you ignore every single red flag, you better be ready for the absolute storm. So his hair is still wet, and he actually looks a tiny bit relaxed, but get this. He walks right into that fancy kitchen and pulls out flour, eggs, and ricotta cheese. Emma is totally confused and asks what on earth he is doing. He looks at her with these crazy, vulnerable eyes and says he is trying to make cannoli. His late mother used to make them, but he just cannot get the recipe right, and he knows Emma can. She walks over to help, and he admits he just wants to pretend they are normal people having a normal night for once. Emma feels her heart totally melt. She grabs the flour, and they just start baking in complete silence, with her guiding his hands. The lesson here? Sometimes baking a simple pastry is the best therapy after a long day of fighting off Mafia hitmen. They are just standing there rolling dough and cutting circles. It is completely mindless and soothing, which is exactly what they both need right now. Out of nowhere, Dante drops some heavy lore. He tells her his mom passed away from cancer when he was only 12. His dad lost his mind, started hitting the bottle hard, and got super abusive. By the time Dante was 15, he was literally running the entire crime syndicate because his dad was a total wreck. He looks right at Emma and says he is not looking for a pity party. He just wants her to know he never chose this dark life, but he definitely chose to survive it. He says survival means being the most ruthless guy in the room. Life lesson. Trauma makes you hard, but it does not excuse turning into an absolute monster. Dante looks her dead in the eye and admits he did terrible things tonight. He says he hurts people without a second thought when they threaten what belongs to him. Emma swallows hard and asks the big question. She asks if she belongs to him. Dante does not even blink. He says absolutely. She has been his since the very first second she walked into his office. He just did not want to admit it. Any normal girl would be sprinting for the nearest exit right now. But Emma? She steps right up to him with her flour-covered hands and whispers that she is not scared of him. He warns her. Guys, picture this absolute chaos. We open with Emma standing on her toes, whispering, "Regret me," right against Dante's lips. And honestly, that is all the invitation this mobster needs. Dante's composure shatters completely. He grabs her, hoists her right onto the kitchen counter, and steps between her knees like he owns the place. His hands are literally everywhere in her hair, gripping her waist like he's been starving for 20 years, and she's the only meal left. Emma is clinging to him, pouring every ounce of her fear and crazy logic-defying certainty into this one kiss. When they finally break up, panting like they ran a marathon, Dante rests his forehead on hers and growls that this is a terrible idea. She knows. He warns her she'll hate him. He tells her she's going to end up hating him, and she just smiles and says, "Good." Guys, Dante actually laughs a real, genuine, gravelly laugh that sounds totally foreign on a ruthless mafia enforcer. He kisses her again, but this time it's soft, sweet. Like a guy who just realized he's falling off a cliff and doesn't even care about the impact. Emma's brain is screaming at her to run for the hills, but she kisses him right back. Here's a little life lesson for you. Sometimes the most dangerous move is the exact thing your soul is begging for. Even if your heart demands a literal monster who bakes Italian pastries and looks at you like you re his salvation. They are so ridiculously wrapped up in each other that they completely forget the oven until the smoke alarm starts shrieking. The alarm is absolutely blaring and Dante is cursing in rapid-fire Italian. He yanks the baking sheet out, tossing the totally nuked blackened cannoli shells into the sink, while Emma frantically waves a kitchen towel at the smoke detector. When the screeching finally stops, they just stare at each other and burst into uncontrollable laughter. It's that real soul-cleansing laugh, like breaking the surface after drowning. Dante pulls her right back into his chest, still chuckling, and she just breathes him in. She jokes that they awful at pretending to be normal, and he says he doesn't care. They don't even order takeout. Instead, these two end up sitting on the couch, eating raw dough with their hands, while Dante drops his guard and shares stories about his late mom. Emma matches his energy, telling him all about her grandmother, and learning to cook in a tiny kitchen that smelled heavily of oregano and pure love. They keep talking until the sun actually starts coming up, and Emma can barely keep her eyes open. Dante gently brushes her hair back and tells her to get some sleep. When she offers to take the couch, he shuts that down instantly. He cups her face, looking so serious, and tells her he meant what he said about taking things slow. He refuses to rush her into anything she isn't ready for. Emma shoots back. "What if I am ready?" His eyes go pitch black, but he holds back. He tells her she isn't, kisses her forehead, and promises he'll be right outside. "Let me tell you, finding a guy who respects boundaries like that, that's the real green flag." Emma really wants to argue, but she is running on fumes at this point. She lets Dante walk her into his master bedroom, which has a bed massive enough to fit 4 entire people. She totally collapses onto the mattress, fully dressed. The sheets smell exactly like his expensive cologne, and she passes out before her anxiety can even kick in. But fast forward 10 hours, she jolts awake to the sound of aggressive yelling out in the living room. Sunlight is blasting through the windows. She grabs her burner phone and sees it's past noon. The shouting match is escalating. She clearly hears Dante's voice, dripping with pure rage, and some other older guy barking right back at him. Her heart is pounding out of her chest as she slowly creeps over to the door and cracks it open to peek outside. Dante is standing right in the middle of the room, squaring off against this older guy Emma has never seen in her life. The dude looks about 50, rocking silver hair and a stone-cold face, dressed in a custom suit that screams Mafia boss. "You're being reckless bringing a civilian into this," the guy spits out. Dante snaps right back, telling him she's not part of the game. She's under his personal protection, and that's the end of it. The older guy lets out this dark, humorless chuckle. He tells Dante that he just painted a massive target on Emma's back, and now every single rival knows exactly how to ruin him. Dante doesn't even blink. He just stares the guy down and says they'll die trying, exactly like the Calabrese brothers did last night. The tension here is absolutely insane. The older boss steps right up to Dante and drops a bombshell. "You started a full-blown turf war over a girl you've known for 3 days. Do you have any idea what that cost us?" Guys, Emma is behind the door and her blood literally freezes. "A war? Over her?" Dante's voice drops into this terrifyingly calm register, and he says he doesn't care about the cost, because nobody touches what belongs to him. The boss calls him weak. Dante says she makes him human. Then the old man drops the hammer. The crime family held a vote this morning. They want Emma exiled, shipped away until the heat dies down. Dante just hits him with a flat no. The boss warns him it isn't a request, but Dante is unbothered. He dares anyone who has a problem to come see him personally. The absolute loyalty here is wild. Look at this absolute madness, guys. Vincent stares Dante down and straight up accuses him of choosing some girl over the Mafia family. But our guy Dante does not even blink. He fires back, saying he is choosing to protect an innocent person instead of throwing her to the wolves just to look tough. Vincent pulls the ultimate guilt trip, telling Dante his late father would be ashamed. Huge mistake. Dante ice-cold roasts his own dead dad, calling him a drunk who sold out his crew, and says if that guy's ashamed, he is definitely doing something right. Vincent is absolutely speechless and storms out into the elevator. The doors shut, leaving this heavy silence in the penthouse, and Emma steps out of the bedroom. Her legs are literally shaking. "Stick with me, because we are about to unpack a masterclass in standing your ground." Emma softly calls out his name. Dante spins around, and the sheer fury still burning in his eyes makes her physically flinch. But the second he sees her, the Mafia boss mask totally drops. He rushes over and pulls her into a desperate hug. She admits she heard everything, whispering that he literally started a gang war over her. Dante corrects her instantly, claiming he ended a threat. He explains the Calabrese brothers were stalking her, planning to kidnap her to use as a pawn against him. He flat out admits he ended them to stop it, and he does not regret a single thing. He promises he would wipe out anyone who tries to hurt her. Emma is barely breathing at this point and asks who the angry guy was. Dante reveals it was Vincent Russo, his father's oldest friend. Dante explains that Vincent thinks he gets a vote in how the family is run, and wants Emma hidden away until the gang fallout cools down. Emma, being reasonable, suggests maybe the old man is right. But Dante shuts that down instantly. He tells her fiercely that she is not going anywhere unless she actually wants to. He gives her the ultimate out. Emma's brain is screaming at her to run, to escape this crazy mob life while she can. But then she looks at him. She sees this ruthless boss looking at her with total desperation, holding her like she is the only thing keeping him from completely losing his mind. So she whispers that she wants to stay. The absolute relief on Dante's face is wild. He kisses her like his life depends on it, resting his forehead against hers. He looks right at her and declares that she is his now, and he is going to protect her no matter the cost. Right at that intense moment, Emma's actual cell phone starts blowing up. They both totally freeze. Dante guesses his right-hand man, Marco, must have brought her bags up to the penthouse. Emma digs through her purse, and her stomach drops to the floor. It is her mom calling. She has not spoken to this woman in 2 solid weeks, ever since she sent over her monthly allowance. She picks up, and her mom is in a state of absolute panic. The landlord called saying Emma has been missing for 2 days, and a coworker snitched that she left the office with some mysterious guy. Emma tries to play it cool, telling her mom she is completely fine. This is where it gets crazy, guys. Emma tries to brush it off, saying she is just crashing with a friend. But her mom goes straight savage, snapping back that Emma does not even have friends because she works herself to the bone just to send money home. Ouch. Emma tries to keep her voice steady, but Dante is watching her with this look of pure heartbreak. Her mom keeps pushing, asking if she is in some kind of trouble. Emma freezes. I mean, what is she supposed to say? Hey, Mom? I am hiding out in a Mafia penthouse because hitmen want to use me as bait in a turf war. Instead, she just admits she met a guy named Dante, and he is taking care of her. The silence on the phone is louder than a siren. Her mom is totally stunned, pointing out that Emma barely lets anyone help her wash a single dish. Her mom demands to know the truth, terrified that this random guy is hurting her. Emma looks over at Dante, seeing nothing but genuine concern in the eyes of a literal crime boss. She tells her mom that Dante is actually protecting her from things she would not even understand, begging her to just trust her for once. After a tense pause, her mom caves, but threatens to call the cops if Emma does not check in every single day. Emma hangs up and looks like she wants to chuck the phone out the window. Dante just steps in, takes the phone out of her hands, and pulls her back into a hug. He quietly points out that her mom is just worried. But Emma snaps, saying her mom is always worried. But it never stops her from cashing those monthly checks. It is harsh, but totally true. Dante guides her to the couch and drops a massive truth bomb. He tells her straight up that she does not owe her mother a single thing. And here is a life lesson for all of us. Just because someone is family, it does not mean they get a free pass to drain you dry. Emma leans into him and admits her mom is all she has left. But Dante tightens his grip and hits her with the ultimate line. He says, "You have me now." That should be a massive red flag coming from a mob boss, but to Emma, it feels like the safest promise in the world. They just sit there for a minute, soaking in the peace, listening to his heartbeat. It is almost like a normal relationship. But of course the peace never lasts in the Mafia. Dante's phone goes off. He curses under his breath and says he has to take it. Look at this, guys. Dante is dropping rapid-fire Italian on the phone, and our girl Emma catches 3 words: war, blood, and betrayal. Yeah, not exactly what you want to hear from your boyfriend. She is freezing in a luxury penthouse. But Dante turns around looking like the Grim Reaper. He says he needs to step out and will leave his right-hand man, Marco, to babysit. But Emma is not having it today. She tells him straight up to take her with him. She is completely over being locked in a gilded cage while he handles his dark business. She wants the raw, unfiltered truth of his world. And you know, sometimes in life, stepping out of your comfort zone to face the ugly truth is the only way you actually grow. Dante immediately tries to shut it down, warning her that absolutely nothing about his life is safe. But Emma drops a heavy line, saying she would rather be in danger by his side than perfectly safe, but totally alone. She begs him to show his true colors. You can literally see the internal panic in his eyes, but he finally caves. He lays down the ultimate ground rules stick to him like glue and run if things go south. He texts his crew and tells her they roll out in 20 minutes. He gives her one last warning that once she crosses this line, there is zero going back. Emma does not even blink. You and I both know that making a choice and fully committing to the consequences is a hard lesson we all have to learn. Exactly 20 minutes later, Emma is chilling in the back of a sleek Audi, wearing casual clothes Marco somehow packed for her. Dante is sitting next to her, wound tighter than a cheap watch. While Marco drives and Tony is riding shotgun with a literal weapon on his lap, they pull up to a massive, shady warehouse in the middle of nowhere. Suits are guarding every single door, looking hard as nails, but they all stare at Emma like she is an alien. Dante just links his fingers with hers and tells her to stay close. They walk inside and Emma is blown away. It is a gigantic operation, people counting giant stacks of cash and hoarding enough liquor to supply 100 bars. It just goes to show. You never really know what goes on behind closed doors. The whole place is running like a perfectly oiled machine. But the second Dante steps onto the floor, everyone freezes. He barks at them to get back to work because they are falling behind schedule, and the crew scatters like ants. He walks Emma into a private glass office where he can watch his empire but keep things quiet. He casually drops the bomb that this is a distribution center. The booze is legal, but the underground gambling ring in the basement and the crazy money laundering operations absolutely are not. Emma is dizzy, asking how much cash they are moving. He says millions every single month. Sometimes. The biggest secrets in life are hiding right in plain sight, disguised as everyday routines. He leans back against the desk, watching her reaction like a hawk. He flat out tells her that this is his real identity. All those fancy restaurants and construction gigs? Just a pretty little mask for the underground hustle that keeps his family on top and his rivals terrified. Emma looks out at the floor, asking if these regular workers know they are part of a crime syndicate. He says the loyal ones know, and the rest get paid too much to ask questions. Then, his phone goes off. He curses, his jaw tightens up, and he tells her she has to stay in the office with Tony. Someone is skimming money off the top. Greed is a dangerous game, and taking things that do not belong to you always catches up with you in the end. He explains that one of his own trusted lieutenants is the thief, and they need to have a little chat. Just the way he says the word chat makes Emma feel sick to her stomach. Dante looks her dead in the eye and says this is the exact moment she has to decide if she can handle his dark reality. He admits he is going to seriously hurt a man for breaking his trust, and he will not feel an ounce of guilt about it. Every logical instinct is screaming at Emma to run away, to just go home and forget this whole mess. But instead, she looks at him and demands to come along. She literally tells him to show her everything. You and I have to remember that running from the ugly parts of reality never actually makes them disappear. Dante is stunned, warning her she has no idea what she is getting into. But Emma steps right up to him, completely fearless. She tells him she is not a little kid who is going to shatter just because the world gets dark. She already knows how cruel life can be. But she needs to see exactly what she is signing up for by staying by his side. You can actually see the respect wash over his face. He finally nods, warning her to speak up the second she needs to bail out. Emma agrees, her heart pounding out of her chest. He leads her through the warehouse to a sketchy back door that opens to a pitch-black staircase. Sometimes you just have to grab fear by the hand and walk straight into the dark to find your own truth. You and I both know that nothing good ever happens in a concrete basement. The air down there is freezing, and a single light bulb is swinging from the ceiling. Right in the middle of the room, tied to a chair, is a terrified guy who looks about 40 years old. The two guards down there look totally shocked to see Emma, but Dante orders them out without missing a beat. The heavy door clicks shut, leaving just the three of them in the freezing room. The guy in the chair is hyperventilating, begging for his life. He is desperately sobbing, trying to convince Dante that he can explain why he swiped $200,000 over the last 6 months. Desperation really makes people do the most foolish things. Dante does not even yell. His voice is chillingly calm, almost friendly, which honestly makes it 10 times worse. He asks the guy to explain how he ever thought he could steal from a mafia boss and actually get away with it. The thief is crying, claiming he meant to pay it back because his daughter needed expensive surgery. But Dante completely destroys that lie, pointing out he personally paid for that surgery 8 months ago. The guy completely breaks down, admitting he had massive gambling debts and dangerous people were coming for his life. Dante asks who he owes, and the guy drops a massive name, Vincent Russo. Lying to cover up your mistakes is like digging a hole to escape. You just end up trapped deeper. The absolute plot twist right here. The same guy who was just in their penthouse this evening is pulling the strings. Dante freezes up completely. He asks if Vincent ordered the theft, but the guy swears it was just bad bets. Vincent promised to wipe his massive debt clean if he simply handed over the details about Dante and the secret girl he was hiding. The entire room drops 10 degrees. Dante asks what the guy leaked. his voice basically a deadly whisper. Before anyone can blink, Dante grabs the guy by the throat, lifting him in the chair entirely off the floor. The guy chokes out that he only mentioned Dante was distracted by a girl. Betraying someone who trusts you is a line you can never uncross. Dante releases his grip and the chair slams back onto the concrete. The guy is gasping for dear life while Dante just stands there, his fists balled up and his chest heaving. In a shockingly quiet voice, Dante tells the guy to get out. He orders him to vanish from Chicago by midnight, warning that if he ever speaks a single word about the family business, he will hunt down everyone he loves. The terrified guy scrambles out of his ropes and runs up those stairs like his life depends on it. Emma watches him completely disappear, then turns to Dante, who is still standing there as stiff as a board. She softly points out that he actually let a traitor walk away. Mercy is a rare gift, and giving someone a second chance changes everything. Dante is absolutely wrecked right now. His voice is totally raspy as he explains that the guy handed over information that put Emma in direct danger. He turns around, and you can see pure agony in his eyes. He admits he only let the traitor live because she was standing right there, and he desperately wanted to prove he is not just a monster. Emma walks straight up to him and holds his face in her hands. She tells him he never has to put on a fake mask for her. Dante confesses he still wants to end the guy, asking if his dark side scares her. Emma looks him dead in the eye and admits she is terrified, but she is not going anywhere. Accepting someone for exactly who they are, flaws and all, is what real love is built on. Dante tries to push her away, telling her she needs to run as fast and as far away from him as physically possible. But Emma stops him, saying she is actively choosing this chaotic life and choosing him, even the terrifying parts. He looks absolutely gutted, asking her why she would ever want a mob boss who starts literal street wars. She does not have a perfectly logical answer, but she drops the raw truth. She tells him that being with him makes her feel truly alive for the first time ever. She feels like she actually matters, like she is so much more than just a girl baking pastries and paying her mother. Finding the people who genuinely value your worth is the single most important step you will ever take. Dante completely melts and kisses her with this insane, desperate energy, like she is the only oxygen left in the room. Emma kisses him right back, pouring every ounce of her fear, confusion, and total certainty into that one moment. When they finally pull away, Dante rests his forehead against hers and fiercely promises that she is worth absolutely everything. But right as they share this perfect moment, her phone starts blowing up. It is her mom calling again. Emma sighs and picks it up, but her mom sounds completely hollow and terrified. She whispers that a strange man is at the house, claiming he knows Emma. Then, a totally different, chilling voice speaks into the receiver. "Stick with me here, because trouble always strikes when you least expect it. Let's look at this piece by piece, shall we?" Emma's phone suddenly rings, and it's a guy named Vincent Russo, smoothly telling her they need to discuss her future with Dante. Dante's face instantly turns into absolute murder when he realizes who's calling. He orders her to put it on speakerphone, his voice dropping to that scary quiet tone. Vincent casually lays out his demands. He's sending a car, and Emma is going to get in it alone. He wants to have a little chat about her role in the syndicate, basically threatening her to walk away from Dante voluntarily, so things don't get messy. The sheer audacity of this guy to call Dante's phone and try to strong-arm his girl right in front of him. You can literally feel the room's temperature dropping as Dante prepares to unleash hell. Dante steps up to the phone and delivers a chilling promise. If Vincent even looks at Emma's mother, he will burn his entire criminal empire to ashes. But Vincent is a snake. He chuckles and says he's not going to touch anyone. He just wants to explain reality to Dante's little girlfriend. Then he drops the ultimate leverage. Vincent tells Emma she has exactly 15 minutes to get into the waiting car. If she refuses, well, her mom is currently with him, very worried about her, and it would be a shame if something tragic happened. And he hangs up. Emma is completely paralyzed with pure terror. Dante immediately goes into war mode, barking orders to his hitters, but Emma is completely deaf to it. She's being forced to choose between the man she loves and the mother who raised her. Emma's legs completely give out beneath her, so Emma is shaking, right? She looks at Dante and asks what if Vincent crosses the line. But guys, Dante does not even blink. His voice is straight up ice. He promises that if Vincent messes up, he will destroy everyone Vincent loves and make him watch. Emma is terrified. She insists she has to get in the car alone, just like Vincent demanded. Dante shuts that down instantly with a hard, final no. He is already texting his guy Marco, who is tracking her mom's phone. They will have a location in 2 minutes. But Emma is fully spiraling, terrified they will be too late. You and I know that feeling, right? It just shows you that panic never actually solves the problem. It only blinds you to the solution. Take a breath when things get crazy. Emma breaks down here. She admits her mom is incredibly difficult, selfish, and takes her cash without a thank you. But it is still her mother. She cannot let her get hurt over a mafia vendetta. No matter how messy family can be, showing up for people when it counts is a lesson we could all take to heart. Dante gets it. His face softens. He pulls her close, resting his forehead against hers, and swears on his life he will get her mom back safely. He just needs her trust. Emma is clutching his shirt, completely torn. Can she trust this lethal enforcer she met 5 days ago? A guy who starts actual gang wars. But looking into his determined eyes, seeing he would move heaven and earth for her, she cannot say no. She gives him a slow nod. The second Emma says she trusts him, Dante's face buzzes. He checks it and his face turns to absolute stone. They found her. The mom is trapped at Vincent's massive estate, 20 minutes away. Emma is freaking out, but Dante is in full boss mode. He barks orders to mobilize 30 armed men at Vincent's gate in 15 minutes. Emma grabs his arm, terrified. She asks, if you roll up with an army, what stops Vincent from hurting her out of spite? Dante stops dead in his tracks. He turns around with a deadly look that makes Emma stop breathing. He quietly says, absolutely nothing. You know, sometimes the hardest lesson in life is realizing you cannot control the outcome. True bravery is just facing those terrifying odds anyway. So Dante drops the ultimate bombshell. He is walking right into the lion's den alone to negotiate. If Vincent plays games, Dante's men will breach the gates and wipe them off the map. Emma is screaming that it is obviously a trap, but guys, Dante just pulls her in and kisses her hard. He straight up says he does not care if it is a trap, as long as her mom gets out alive. It really proves that real love is about putting someone else's peace of mind above your own safety. He marches her to the car and lays down the law. She stays with his top enforcer, Marco. If Dante is not back in 1 single hour, Marco smuggles her out of the city forever. Emma is desperate to argue, begging to face the fire together. But Dante is already walking into the dark. Look at this, guys. Emma knows stopping Dante is literally impossible right now. She tells him he has 1 hour before she goes hunting for him, and Dante just smirks like an absolute boss. He drops this super soft kiss on her, acting like he is trying to memorize her soul, and then boom, he is out. He jumps into the Audi, leaving his heavy hitter Marco to guard our girl. Emma is panicking. Marco tries to chill her out, saying Dante has survived way worse than Vincent Russo. But Emma drops the hardest question. Did he survive for himself or for someone else? Marco hits her with the cold truth. Dante never had a real reason to live until now, which makes him incredibly dangerous. The real lesson here: having someone to lose completely changes how you fight. Marco admits it is a toss-up if Dante will be reckless or ruthless. Emma is shivering in this sweaty warehouse, feeling the bad vibes set in. She asks Marco how long he has been rolling with the boss. 8 years, he says, ever since the old man kicked the bucket. Marco flexes that siding with Dante was his biggest brain move ever, because Dante actually respects his crew, instead of tossing them in the trash when they lose their edge. Emma hits back, asking about the bodies he catches. Marco does not even blink. He says Dante only takes out the ones who absolutely have it coming. Honestly, the life lesson here is that true loyalty is earned by treating people right, not just ruling by absolute fear. Marco swears her mom is totally safe, and Vincent is just flexing for clout. You and I both know a mob power play when we see one. Emma tries to believe Marco, but the anxiety is eating her alive. Suddenly, her phone starts buzzing with an unknown caller. Total red flag, right? She answers with shaking hands, and it is Vincent, sounding way too smooth. He already knows Dante is speeding over to save her mom. It was his master plan all along. Emma begs him to let her mom walk, saying she is innocent. But Vincent shuts that down hard. He says he has watched Dante evolve from a terrified kid into the most lethal boss in Chicago. Through all those years, Dante only cared about leveling up. That is, until Emma showed up. It goes to show you, folks, everyone has a weak spot, and sometimes love is the ultimate game changer. Emma is left completely speechless. Emma is lost and demands to know what this villain actually wants. Vincent flips the script, saying he wants her to realize how she is ruining Dante. He goes full dramatic mode, calling Dante a king. And kings? They do not fall in love or get sidetracked by everyday civilians baking pastries. They definitely do not trigger massive gang wars over a girl they met 3 days ago. But Dante is doing exactly that, and Vincent says it will get him clipped. Emma immediately offers to run away and vanish forever. But Vincent drops a massive reality check. It is way too late for that. The rival families already smell blood in the water. They know Dante has a soft spot now. The big takeaway here? Your actions always impact the people around you, whether you intend them to or not. They are coming for him. Vincent dangles a crazy lifeline. He tells Emma she needs to disappear permanently, in a way that shatters Dante's heart and proves love is just a massive weakness. Vincent offers to bankroll a new life for her and her mom. Fake identities, unlimited cash, the whole setup. If she ghosts him, Dante turns back into the unkillable boss he was meant to be. Emma's brain is short-circuiting. She asks if he wants her to fake her death. Vincent says he just wants her to save Dante's life by walking away forever. This hits her like a freight train and her knees buckle. She crashes onto a crate, waving off Marco's help. It is a harsh reminder that sometimes the most painful sacrifices are made in complete silence. She whispers into the phone, asking how she can even trust this guy. Emma asks how she knows this is not just next-level gaslighting. Vincent plays it cool and says she does not. But he knows she feels the truth deep down. She has seen Dante risk everything in anger every mobster in the city to keep her safe. Eventually, a rival will get lucky and land a fatal shot because of her. Emma is practically in tears and demands to know why Vincent even cares. Vincent drops some heavy lore. Dante is the best boss they have had in 30 years. And Vincent promised the old man he would protect his boy. But here is the real kicker. He refuses to watch another Morty ruin their life over romance. It is a solid lesson that history repeats itself if you do not actively break the cycle. He says Dante's mom already made that exact fatal mistake. Vincent spills the tea on Dante's parents, and it is dark. His mom was so devoted that she stayed through the addiction, the abuse, and even when illness was destroying her body. She put her love for a toxic man above her own survival. Emma is heartbroken but claps back, saying she is not his mother. Vincent agrees, but points out she is making Dante soft. And in the Mafia world, soft guys get wiped out fast. It really shows us that blind devotion can sometimes be your biggest downfall. Vincent lays down the ultimate ultimatum. She has exactly 24 hours to make her choice. To prove he is not bluffing, he promises her mom will be dropped off safely within the hour. The call drops. Emma is left completely frozen, gripping her phone tightly, while her brain just crashes from the shock. Marco drops down into a crouch right in front of her, actually looking worried. He demands to know what Vincent told her. Emma is completely frozen. She cannot even speak because her brain is just flashing back to Vincent's insane offer, mixing with the memory of Dante covered in blood. She is terrified that dating a mafia boss is going to get him whacked. Suddenly, her phone buzzes in her pocket. It is a text from Dante himself. He got her mother. They are safe and heading back. Relief hits Emma so hard she practically collapses. Her mom is breathing. Dante is breathing. Everything should be perfectly fine. But here is the kicker. It is not fine at all. Vincent planted a massive seed of doubt in her brain. And no matter how hard she tries to ignore it, that paranoia is taking root. You and I are going to look at this together and see why she is spiraling. She is standing there, wondering if her relationship is an actual death warrant for the most dangerous man in Chicago. 20 minutes later, a sleek black Audi screeches to a halt. Emma does not even wait for the engine to cut before she is sprinting outside. The back door opens and her mom falls out, looking completely traumatized, but without a scratch on her. Emma grabs her in this massive hug. Her mom is physically fine, but she is panicking, demanding to know who these terrifying people are. She is gripping Emma so hard it is leaving bruises. Emma promises to explain everything, but then she looks past her and sees Dante stepping out, his face completely blank. Lesson learned. Secrets always blow up in your face. Now the mom starts interrogating her. She wants to know what Vincent said and immediately starts demanding they pack their bags and skip town. She wants to jump on a bus and vanish into thin air. Emma gently pushes her mother away and drops the bomb. She is not running. Her mom looks at her like she has completely lost her mind. She starts screaming that these guys are literal murderers, and that Dante walks around like the Grim Reaper, while everyone shakes in their boots. Then she hits Emma with the classic guilt trip, saying she raised her to be smart and stay away from gangsters. Emma looks her dead in the eye and drops the coldest line of the century. She tells her mother that she raised her to survive. Talk about a plot twist, right? The innocent baker is now standing her ground. Emma keeps her voice super quiet but ridiculously firm. She tells her mom that this is what surviving actually looks like. It means not drowning in crushing debt and working until her hands bleed for absolute pennies. Her mom starts crying, swearing that Dante is going to get her killed in the crossfire. Emma glances over at Dante, who is standing in the shadows just watching them like a hawk. She tells her mom she would rather die being someone important than live out her days as a nobody. She confesses how sick she was of just baking cannolis and struggling to pay rent while being completely invisible to the world. Dante looked at her like she was the center of the universe. Simple life lesson here. Everyone just wants to feel seen, even if the guy looking at you is a ruthless mob boss. Her mom just stares at her, completely defeated, with tears ruining her face. She warns Emma that this gangster romance is going to shatter both of their hearts into a million pieces. Emma just hugs her, smelling that cheap perfume, knowing her mom is right, but not caring anymore. Then the mom pulls away, marches right up to the literal head of the Mafia, and glares at Dante with pure venom. She tells him that if he gets her daughter killed, she will haunt his miserable life from beyond the grave. Dante does not even blink. He just nods and says that sounds fair enough. Absolute ice in his veins, this guy. Marco steps up and ushers the mom into a car to stash her at a luxury hotel so she is out of the danger zone. Sometimes you just have to stash your family in a penthouse to survive. Stick with me, this is where it gets heavy. Once the car vanishes down the street, Emma spins around to face Dante. The guy looks completely wrecked. He has actual blood dried on his expensive shirt cuffs and massive dark bags under his eyes. But the second he looks at Emma, his cold mobster mask completely melts off. He quietly asks if she is okay, and she just lets out this bitter laugh. Then he asks the big question, did Vincent talk to her? Emma does not hold back. She tells him Vincent offered her the ultimate witness protection. New identity, endless cash, total safety. All she had to do was ghost Dante forever. Dante freezes like a statue, bracing for the worst. When she tells him she asked for time to think about it, the absolute devastation on his face is brutal to watch. Emma closes the gap between them in 3 massive strides and literally grabs the Mafia Don by his face. She fiercely tells him she is rejecting the deal and refusing to leave his side, but then she demands the ugly truth. She asks him point blank if being with her is going to get him put in the ground. Dante does not even hesitate. He looks her dead in the eye and says, probably. That blunt honesty knocks the wind right out of her. When she asks why he would risk it, he delivers a line straight out of a movie. He says he would rather die with her than survive without her. He admits it is totally selfish, but she is the only good thing he has touched in 15 dark, violent years. He refuses to give her up for his enemies. The lesson here, love makes people do insanely reckless things. Emma is fighting back tears now. She asks the ultimate question, what if she cannot handle the guilt of getting him clipped? Dante's voice goes rough, and he tells her she can just walk away. He admits he would hate it, and maybe hate her a little for breaking him. But he would never trap her in a life that destroys her. Emma stares into his eyes and finally gets it. Vincent was dead wrong. Loving her did not make this ruthless enforcer weak. It made him a real human being. Sure, in the criminal underworld, having a heart is a massive liability that will probably get you whacked. But looking at this absolute unit of a man who started gang wars and walked into deadly traps just for her, she makes her choice. She is staying. Loyalty is everything, folks. Especially when the stakes are high. Emma locks eyes with him and drops the hammer. She tells him she is staying. You can literally see the weight of the world fall off Dante's shoulders. But Emma is not done. She lays down the new ground rules. If she is staying, she is a partner, not a pet. No more locking her in safe houses, and absolutely no more making executive mob decisions about her life without a vote. They are either in this war together, or they are completely done. Dante actually smirks, this tiny real smile, and calls her a massive pain in his rear end. Then he pulls her in for a kiss that could melt concrete. It is deep, territorial, and totally desperate. Emma kisses him right back, pouring all her lingering terror, crazy love, and stubborn grit into the moment. She is officially part of the family now. When they finally pull apart, Dante is breathing like he just ran a marathon, his eyes completely dark and dangerous. He growls that they need to get out of this warehouse before he loses his mind in front of his entire crew of hitmen. Emma actually laughs, despite the literal target on her back, and tells him to take her home. Dante repeats the word home like he has never heard it before in his life, and you can tell he loves it. They hop into the ride and cruise back to his secure penthouse in total silence, his hand gripping hers the entire way. Emma's brain is still spinning from the threats, the violence, and her mother's panic attack. But underneath all that chaos, she feels totally locked in. This is her turf now. With this dangerous guy. Even if it brings the whole city down. Come with me. We are about to find out what really happened from the very beginning. They walk into his high-tech penthouse. And suddenly it does not feel like a fortified bunker anymore. It just feels like their actual living room. Dante throws the deadbolts, then turns to her with this super intense look that makes her freeze. He says he has a confession to make, something he should have admitted days ago. Emma's heart skips a beat as she braces for more bad Mafia news. But Dante goes in a totally different direction. He admits that the very first time he saw her catering that fancy charity event, long before they actually met, he stood in the shadows and stalked her for 3 solid hours. He watched her bust her back working, smiling at awful rich people, then sneaking free desserts to kids. Dante steps right into her personal space. He tells her that watching her work made him realize she was the exact kind of person who actually makes the miserable world a better place. The kind of pure soul he honestly thought went extinct. Emma is choking up, completely speechless. Dante confesses that he ran a background check on her that same night. He meant to just cut her a fat bonus check anonymously and walk away like a ghost, but he could not do it. He frames her face with his massive hands and admits he could not get her smile out of his head. So when she finally marched into his corporate front office, demanding payment for an invoice, he knew the universe was giving him one single shot at happiness. Emma's eyes go wide as the pieces click together. She realizes he rigged the game. The Mafia Don totally owns up to it without an ounce of shame. He admits he intentionally tanked her bakery's cash flow by holding back his payments. He knew her cheap boss would eventually send an angry employee to collect, and he was praying it would be her. He gives this wicked little smile and says he definitely did not expect her to kick down his door at midnight, covered in baking flour, ready to fight a room full of mobsters over a catering bill. Emma is laughing and crying at the same time, admitting she thought he was going to execute her on the spot. Dante wipes away her tears with his thumbs and drops the ultimate possessive line. He tells her he is keeping her. Emma grabs his hands and challenges him, asking what happens if forever is on the table. The man is totally hooked. Let's kick this off, guys. You and I are about to dive into the most unhinged mafia drama of the year. So look at this. Emma decides that if forever is a long time, they better make it count. She pulls our mafia boss Dante down into a kiss that is straight out of the movies. Slow, deep, totally full of promise. Dante is completely hooked, angling her head like he is drowning and she is the oxygen. When they finally break apart, breathing heavy, he hits her with the big guns. I love you, he says quietly. He knows it is way too fast, but he has to say it, and honestly, here is a life lesson for free. When the truth is screaming inside you, keeping it quiet does absolutely nothing. Emma is terrified, but her heart is basically exploding in her chest. So what does she do? She looks this terrifying mob boss dead in the eyes and says she loves him right back. Dante is stunned. His breath literally hitches before he dives back in, kissing her way harder this time. Emma is totally surrendering to the vibe, believing in this twisted fairy tale, where the absolute monster gets his happy ending. Even if that ending is written in blood, because sometimes you have to fight for what you want, no matter how messy it gets. That is just how life works. They do not even make it to the bedroom, guys. Dante backs her right up against the kitchen counter. His hands are everywhere, her face, her waist, grabbing her hair. He is touching her, like he needs to prove to himself that she is actually real and not just a dream. Things are escalating fast. Emma's hands are shaking so bad she cannot even undo his shirt buttons, so Dante just violently yanks the thing over his head and throws it across the room. She is gasping, reminding him he promised to take things slow. But Dante? He straight up admits he lied. He tells her he physically cannot do slow with her. His mouth is all over her neck, hitting that crazy sensitive spot behind her ear. Just as things are hitting peak spicy levels, her actual phone starts ringing. Not the burner, the real one. Dante says to ignore it, thinking it is just family drama. But it keeps ringing and ringing. Eventually, the guy curses in fluent Italian, snatches it off the counter, and looks at the screen. His entire face freezes over completely. Huge plot twist incoming. It is Vincent on the line. Emma feels her stomach hit the absolute floor. Dante puts him on speaker, telling him he has exactly 30 seconds before he blocks the number forever. But Vincent is chilling, sounding super amused. He drops a massive bomb. That 24-hour deadline he gave Emma? Totally cancelled. The Mafia families had a secret meeting tonight and made their move. Dante is out. They are voting to strip his power, steal his territory, and carve up his entire empire like a pizza. The only way Dante keeps his throne is if he hands Emma over tonight. Talk about an ultimatum. Lesson here. Always expect your enemies to move while you are busy being distracted. They never sleep when money is on the line. Vincent lays it out flat. It is Dante's choice. Choose the Empire or choose the girl. Emma is completely turning pale right now. You can literally hear Dante grinding his teeth. He tells Vincent they cannot do this because the rules demand a unanimous vote, and he will never step down. But Vincent is holding a royal flush. He reveals they invoked Article 7, an old emergency wartime rule Dante's own father created. Karma is crazy, right? 3 rival families have already signed on to destroy him. They just need one more signature and Dante loses 15 years of hard work. Emma is shaking, pressing her hands to Dante's chest, feeling his heart pounding like a drum. Dante just tells Vincent he will call him back, his voice absolutely ice-cold and deadly. Stick with me here, because this is where the stakes get insane. The second he hangs up, Dante violently hurls the phone across the room and shatters it against the wall. Emma jumps, totally spooked. She tries to convince herself they are bluffing, but Dante is stressed. Emma asks the hard question, what if he actually loses his entire empire and his protection? Dante pulls her in so tight it almost hurts. He looks at her and says he does not care what they steal. She is staying right here. Emma is crying now, telling him he cannot throw away his family legacy for a girl he met literally a week ago. But Dante is completely locked in. He just stares her down and tells her to watch him. Sometimes loyalty means burning the world down to protect one person. Dante goes off, pouring his heart out. He says he spent 15 years running an empire he never even asked for, following rules he hates, just so he could end up dying alone in a house full of people who are terrified of him. He grabs her face and drops the heaviest line. She is the first real, genuine thing he has ever had, and he is not giving her up for anybody. Emma is crying, pointing out the obvious reality check. Without the mob's protection, the rivals will smell weakness and hunt him down. Dante does not even flinch. He just says let them come, flexing that he has survived way worse. Emma pushes back, reminding him he never fought an entire war alone. You really need good people in your corner to survive the absolute worst battles in this life. Emma's brain goes into pure overdrive. She asks exactly which families signed this absolute death warrant. Dante runs down the hit list. First, the Russos, which is a total no-brainer. Second, the Calabreses, because Dante zeroed their previous bosses, leaving a very angry cousin in charge. And third, the Lombardists. Who are they? The old-school traditionalists of the Underworld. They absolutely hate how Dante refuses to torture people or throw flashy parties to flex his cash. They think he is weak, and Emma is the ultimate proof of his soft spot. So Emma says they just have to change their minds. If 4 signatures ruin his life, they simply stop the 4th guy from signing. That is just smart thinking. Always focus on the one piece of the puzzle you can actually control. Emma connects the dots like a master detective. If 3 signed, who is the holdout? Dante looks at her and names the Marchesi family. They are the classic neutral party, never taking sides. Their old boss Antonio is fighting cancer, leaving his sharp daughter, Sophia, running the show. Emma instantly says they need to talk to Sophia. Dante thinks it is way too complicated, but Emma is not backing down. If Sophia is neutral, she can be swayed. They just have to figure out what she actually wants, and hand it to her on a silver platter. Think about it. If you want someone on your side, you have to offer them exactly what they value most. So Emma asks the billion-dollar question, what keeps the Marcheses happy? And how do they use it to keep Dante in power today? Dante finally gets it. The Marcheses are businessmen, not soldiers. They deal in shipping and imports, meaning they do not care about street territory. All they care about is money, and making money requires absolute peace. Emma hypes him up, saying they need to prove that keeping Dante on the throne guarantees stability, while letting someone else take over means a massive, bloody war. You can physically see the gears turning in Dante's head. It is a brilliant play. The other mob bosses have been itching to steal his territory for years. If Dante gets booted, those vultures will rip each other to pieces fighting over the scraps. Sophia is way too smart to let a turf war ruin her profits. Show people the real consequences. And they usually make the right choice. Emma is totally on fire now. She tells Dante they are going to see Sophia tonight. Dante is looking at her like she is crazy because it is literally midnight. But Emma pulls the ultimate reality check if they wait for morning. Snake Boy Vincent will get in Sophia's ear first. Dante just stares at her and then bursts out laughing, like a real honest laugh. He calls her insane, and she fires back that she is dating a mob boss, so insanity is basically a requirement. The lesson here? Sometimes the boldest, craziest move is the only one that actually works out. 20 minutes later, they are loaded up in the Audi with his top guys. Emma is wearing this jaw-dropping midnight blue designer dress. She feels absolutely ridiculous doing this at midnight, but she is ready. Let us look at this together, guys. Presentation is everything in the underworld. Dante made her wear the dress, because Sophia respects pure power. You have to look like you own the room, if you want people to listen. Right now, Emma is sitting in the back of the car, squeezing her hands together so they do not shake. Dante leans over and casually laces his fingers with hers, telling her she can back out and he will handle Sophia alone. But Emma is a total ride or die. She squeezes his hand and reminds him they are in this mess together. The car pulls up to the Marchese estate, and this place screams old money. It is the kind of neighborhood where you do not call the cops, you call expensive lawyers. A heavily armed guard instantly blocks the giant iron gates. Dante rolls his window down like a total boss, and tells the guard he needs to see Sophia Marchese immediately, and that it is urgent. The guard looks completely shocked, mumbles something into his radio, and magically, the giant gates swing open. They drive up this ridiculously long driveway to a mansion that makes Dante's luxury penthouse look like a cheap motel. Every single light is on, even though it is the middle of the night, and standing right at the front door is Sophia. She is younger than Emma thought, maybe 30, rocking a super strict bun and eyes that basically scan your soul. She is wearing tailored pants and a silk blouse at midnight, like she knew they were coming. She greets Dante with a freezing cold voice, telling him this visit is highly unexpected. Dante cuts straight to the chase. He tells her it is about the big vote. Sophia tries to play dumb, completely stone-faced, but her eyes give her away for a split second. Dante calls her bluff instantly, telling her he knows Vincent already pitched her on ruining him. Dante says he is here to make the counterpitch. Sophia shifts her terrifying gaze over to Emma, asking exactly who she is. Dante puts a protective hand on Emma's back and introduces her as the exact reason the mob is trying to ruin him. Sophia coldly calls Emma a civilian, the girl who started a massive gang war, but Emma does not even blink. She lifts her chin and fires back that she is the girl trying to stop one. Listen, never let anyone define your narrative for you. You have to stand your ground. Let's take a closer look at this scene, folks. Dante and Emma walk into a fancy old money study. Sophia gives them 10 minutes to state their case. She pours whiskey without asking, then flexes behind a desk that costs more than a house. She demands they talk. Dante steps up to the plate. He warns her that if the syndicate votes him out, rival factions will riot over his turf. The other families will scramble for a piece of the pie and burn the city to the ground. Sophia hits him with a cold question, asking why she should even care. It teaches us a brutal truth. People usually only care about how a crisis impacts their own wallet. Dante just smirks and reminds her that all her highly profitable shipping routes run straight through his heavily guarded territory. Absolute checkmate. Dante lays down pure facts. A street war means seized cargo and zero profits for Sophia. He reminds her he has kept the peace for 15 years, and whoever replaces him will not. Sophia sips her drink, unbothered. She admits his logic is solid, but points out his fatal flaw. He made himself weak over Emma. She points at our girl and calls her a walking liability, explaining why the bosses are freaking out. But Emma is not having it. She stands her ground, firmly stating she is a human being and she is not running away. Sophia glares with ice in her eyes, saying that is the exact problem. She tells Dante he is acting foolish. The real lesson here? Making massive choices based purely on emotion instead of logic can wreck everything you have built. He is thinking with his heart, not his head. Sophia warns that thinking with your heart gets you unalived in the underworld. Dante does not even flinch. He secretly grabs Emma's hand under the table and squeezes it. He hits back with a boss line. Maybe love actually makes him fight harder. Now he has a real reason to defend his empire. Sophia goes completely silent. Then she drops a bomb. Her dad is dying. Dante plays it respectful, but Sophia tells him to save the pity. Watching her father fade makes her question what a legacy even means. She looks at Emma and reveals her father's biggest regret. He wished he had chosen love over the mob life when he had the chance. It goes to show you guys that at the end of the line, your bank account does not hold your hand. True connection is what really matters. Sophia drops pure wisdom, saying power and cash feel completely empty when you are on your deathbed alone. Emma feels terrible and apologizes, but Sophia snaps back that he is not in the grave yet. When he does pass, she takes the throne of the Marchese family, meaning she makes the rules. She paces over to the window and vents about how she has watched the old mobsters operate. They trade away their souls and humanity just to level up. And the payoff? Dying in a room full of people who are terrified of them, rather than people who actually care. The lesson is obvious here. Chasing power blindly will always leave you totally isolated. Sophia turns around and says she will give Dante her crucial vote, but there is a massive catch. Dante immediately looks incredibly suspicious. Stick with me, because this is where it gets absolutely insane. Dante asks what the condition is, and Sophia drops the ultimate plot twist. You marry her. Emma stops breathing. Dante grips her hand so tight it hurts, totally shook. He demands she repeat that. Sophia doubles down, telling him to put a ring on it publicly. If he makes Emma official family, it flips the script. She stops being a liability and becomes a high-tier asset to wash his cash and level up his empire. Sophia explains that the mob hates Emma because she is just a civilian fling. But as a wife, she brings legitimate power that guns cannot buy. The lesson? Sometimes you have to completely change the rules of the game to win it. Emma is malfunctioning. They have known each other for 4 days. This is absolute madness. Dante is losing his mind, protesting that they barely even know each other. Sophia could not care less. She tells him that if he wants her vote, a wedding is the price. If not, her family sides with his worst enemies. The room goes dead silent. Emma can hear her own pulse, feeling Dante's hand shaking in hers. He looks at her with a wrecked expression, telling her quietly that she does not have to do this. He knows dragging her into this mafia mess is unfair. But instead of running, Emma cuts him off and asks Sophia a serious question. Will this crazy plan actually work? Sophia confirms it. In their dark world, girlfriends are just easy targets, but wives are untouchable. The big takeaway here? True commitment provides the ultimate armor when life gets extremely dangerous. Untouchable. Let that word sink in. Emma looks at Dante, the mafia boss who completely wrecked her life in under a week. This man caught bodies for her, sparked a gang war, and was ready to throw away his empire to keep her safe. She looks him in the eyes and says, "Okay." Dante is stunned, trying to warn her off, but Emma levels up right here. She repeats it louder. "I will marry you." Dante panics, saying she does not understand the danger, but she knows exactly what she is signing up for. She drops the ultimate checkmate. He promised to choose her over everything, so now she is choosing him back. All the chaos, the danger, the permanent commitment, she owns it. Guys, the final lesson is clear. When you find someone truly worth fighting for, you go all in, no matter the cost. Listen up, guys, because this is where the plot goes completely off the rails. Emma actually doubles down and says yes. Dante stares at her, totally mind-blown, then tells Sophia to step out. The second the door clicks shut, Dante scoops Emma into his arms. He is freaking out, saying this is all wrong. He wanted to do the traditional thing, buy a massive diamond, bring roses, do it right. But Emma grabs his face and shuts down the fairy tale nonsense. She tells him straight up she does not care about shiny rocks. She just wants him. If marrying the boss means she stays in his dangerous world, she is all in. Dante calls her completely insane, but honestly, you and I both know that sometimes taking a massive leap of faith is the exact move you need to find where you truly belong. Emma laughs and tells him she will say yes 1,000 more times. Dante drops his forehead against hers, wishing he could give her the perfect moment. But Emma is ruthless. She demands he ask her properly right this second before Sophia walks back in and ruins the vibe. Dante lets out a rough, shocked laugh, and boom, the mafia boss drops to one knee right there in the study. No hesitation. He grabs her hand, totally steady now. He looks up at her and drops the craziest truth bomb. He has only known her for 4 days. 4 days, and she has completely flipped his universe upside down. He is feeling things he buried years ago, wanting a life he thought was impossible. It just goes to show you that true love never runs on a schedule. When the right person walks in, it changes everything instantly. He hits her with the rawest proposal ever. No ring, no flowers, just a solid promise to spend his life protecting her and making sure she never regrets picking him. Emma drops a breathless yes. Dante pulls her into an epic kiss that tastes like whiskey and broken rules. When they pull apart, Sophia is standing in the doorway, actually looking impressed. She gives the green light and drops a massive bombshell. The wedding happens in exactly 3 days. She will spread the word and make sure the underworld knows Emma is completely untouchable. Sophia pulls out her phone, ready to call their rival Vincent and lay down the law. It really proves that true loyalty means stepping up to protect your people. No matter how dangerous the fallout might be, Sophia is playing absolute chess here. She plans to tell Vincent the Marchese family is voting to keep Dante in power, blocking the other mafia bosses from making a move. Emma is spinning. 3 days? That is barely enough time to pick a dress. But Sophia gives a razor-sharp smile. In the underworld, 3 days is a lifetime. She tells Emma to just show up and look like a queen. They leave the estate in a total daze. Marco drives in dead silence while Emma clings to Dante's hand. She is marrying a mob boss she just met. It is totally unhinged, yet weirdly perfect. Dante looks at her quietly and offers an out, saying he can handle the families another way if she wants to run. It just shows that a good partner always gives you a choice, even when letting you go might break their heart. Emma shuts down the escape plan. She leans on his shoulder and tells him she is not backing out, even if this is moving at light speed. Dante wraps his arm around her, his voice super rough. He tells her he loves her, more than he ever thought he was capable of loving anything in his dark world. Emma tilts her head, kisses him, and drops the ultimate line. She tells him to take her home and show her exactly how much. Dante's eyes instantly go dark. He reminds her she wanted to take things slow, but Emma admits the slow route is officially cancelled. She wants all of him tonight. Something wild snaps in Dante's expression. He leans forward and just barks at Marco to drive faster. It is a great lesson for all of us. When you finally find something real and undeniable, there is absolutely no point in wasting time. The next 3 days are a complete blur of chaos. Sophia runs the wedding prep, like a literal military operation. Emma barely has a second to breathe, between insane dress fittings and getting sized up by suspicious mob family members. The day before the wedding, Emma's mom storms into the penthouse. She is torn between total fury and just giving up. She looks at Emma in her white silk dress, one that probably costs more than a luxury car, and asks if she is seriously doing this after knowing the guy for 4 days. Emma corrects her. It is 5 days now. She turns to her mom and lays it out straight. She knows it sounds insane, but Dante makes her happier than she has ever been. It really reminds you that family will always worry, but at the end of the day, you are the only one who gets to dictate your own happiness. Her mom has tears in her eyes, begging to know if happiness is enough when her safety is on the line. Emma shuts that down fast. She grabs her mom's hands and swears she is safer now than she has ever been. Dante loves her fiercely, the exact kind of all-consuming love her mom always warned her was a myth. Emma is fully choosing his dangerous underworld. Her mom finally breaks, pulling her into a huge hug, and swears she will personally haunt Dante if he ever messes this up. Fast forward to the wedding, and the vibe is completely insane. It is at a massive church packed with terrifying mobsters. Dante's top enforcers, Marco and Tony, are flanking the altar like Secret Service agents. It just proves that sometimes, fully embracing the chaos is the exact move you need to protect the peace you have finally found. We cut straight to the wedding day, and the vibe is completely surreal. Sophia is sitting in the front row with her dad, looking frail but watching every single move with absolute focus. Emma is walking down the aisle totally alone, because her mom called the whole thing a circus and refused to show up. But Emma does not even care. At the end of that aisle is Dante, and he is looking at her like she is the absolute center of the universe. The ceremony is super traditional and fast. Emma is so hyper-focused on Cis's holding hers that she barely registers the vows. When the priest finally gives the green light to kiss the bride, Dante pulls her in and kisses her like the rest of the world does not even exist. Next thing you know, they are at a massive packed reception. At the reception, Emma shakes hands with random mobsters until her fingers go numb. She is smiling through the pain, trying hard not to think about Vincent's dark warning that loving Dante would end up getting him killed. But when she looks at her new husband, standing tall among his Mafia family with his hand locked onto hers, she sees pure hope in his eyes. She knows deep down she made the right call. You and I both know it is completely insane. It might even destroy them both down the line. But some risks are just worth taking, and Emma locked in her choice. Fast forward to later that night. They are totally alone in their penthouse, standing on the balcony looking over the skyline. Dante pulls her close and softly asks if she has any regrets about all this madness. Emma looks out over the glittering, dangerous Chicago skyline, knowing her entire life has changed. She turns back to Dante, the terrifying Mafia boss, who literally chose her over his own criminal empire, and gives him a massive smile. She tells him she does not have a single regret, and she means every word. Think about this timeline, guys. Emma Moretti walked into a mob boss's office just 4 days ago with nothing but a basic invoice and a prayer. Now, she has a love story that sounds completely fake. It is the kind of epic romance that burns through every single rule and rebuilds the world from the ashes. It just goes to show that even the darkest monsters can find redemption, and totally ordinary people can step up and become absolute royalty when the moment calls for it. Now they both know the fallout is coming. If the rival Mafia families decide to come knocking, or if Vincent tries another sneaky move to tear their relationship apart, they do not care. They are going to face the whole criminal underworld together as a team. Emma is completely done running from her problems, her past, and her fears. She has leveled up in the craziest way possible, standing right beside the most powerful man in the city. She realizes that this wild, dangerous, unpredictable life is exactly where she is meant to be. Sometimes the craziest detours lead you right to your true destination. We love to see a massive character arc, and Emma absolutely nailed hers. Let me know what you guys thought of this epic mob drama, because this ending was pure cinema.
One of the most emotional lessons in this story is Emma's search for self-worth. At the beginning, Emma is not presented as powerful, rich, or confident. She is exhausted, overworked, and nearly broke. She has only $12 in her account, yet she still shows up to deliver an invoice because responsibility has become her survival habit. Her life is built around working hard, paying bills, helping her mother, and trying not to fall apart. What makes Dante's attention so powerful is not only romance. It is the fact that for the first time, someone truly sees Emma. He remembers her cannoli. He notices her courage. He listens to her story. For a woman who has spent years feeling invisible, that recognition awakens something inside her. The educational lesson here is important. People need to feel seen. Many ordinary workers, caregivers, and quiet people move through life unnoticed. They serve others, solve problems, carry burdens, and rarely receive appreciation. Emma reminds us that behind every tired face is a story of effort, sacrifice, and hidden strength. However, the story also teaches that self-worth should not depend only on being chosen by someone powerful. Dante helps Emma recognize her value, but that value was already there. She was already strong before he entered her life. She was already brave. She was already worthy. For viewers, the message is meaningful. Do not wait for someone else to prove that you matter. Sometimes love can open your eyes, but your worth does not begin with another person's attention. It begins with understanding that your struggles, kindness, and courage have value, even when the world fails to notice.